This is Sky News live in Jerusalem. I'm Yalda Hakim with a special program on the conflict in the Middle East. Iran's ambassador to the UK tells Sky News that his country is willing to explore diplomatic solutions with hundreds of people killed in 2 days of strikes by the US and Israel. As the strikes continue, so too does the retaliation, with 9 Israelis killed west of Jerusalem and Israel calling up 100,000 reservists. Meanwhile, the United States reveals 3 of its service members have been killed and 5 seriously injured as new details emerge of Operation Epic Fury. Oil prices expected to soar as hundreds of tankers drop anchor off the Strait of Hormuz after a number of vessels were attacked. And as the airlines remain grounded, the problem of what to do with hundreds of thousands of travellers, the UK government drawing up plans for a huge evacuation. Donald Trump says he will speak to Iran's new leaders. Over the next hour, we'll have the latest news and analysis and discuss where this conflict could go next. Good evening. The Iranian ambassador to the UK has told Sky News that Iran is willing to explore diplomatic solutions to this conflict, which erupted with the killing of the country's supreme leader yesterday morning. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in an airstrike on Tehran, and the strikes have continued today with hundreds of people reportedly killed across the country. Iran's response in the form of missile and rocket attacks has claimed the lives of 9 people here in Israel, grounded international airlines and effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, almost certainly leading to a surge in global oil prices. Well, tonight we'll get reaction and analysis from our correspondents here in the Middle East, as well as in Washington and London, as the world watches and waits to see what happens next. Well, the next day began with Israel launching a fresh round of strikes on Tehran. Later, the US claimed to have sunk an Iranian Navy ship in Charbahar. Iran's retaliation has continued throughout the day. In central Israel, at least 9 people were killed and 28 injured in Beit Shemesh after a synagogue was hit. Elsewhere, fatalities were reported in Kuwait as well as Abu Dhabi in the UAE, where Dubai was targeted once again. Meanwhile, the port of Duqm was struck in Oman, and vessels hit in the Strait of Hormuz, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan and Saudi Arabia were also hit. But so far, there are no reports of significant damage. Well, our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons has our first report this evening.
The bombardments go on. In Tehran, the boom of destruction. American and Israeli forces renewing their assault. And it follows this. The Israeli military has now released fresh footage of the attack that blew up the compound of Ayatollah Khamenei, killing Iran's supreme leader. America continues to flex its formidable military might, even as news of US deaths emerged. But Iran has responded with both missiles and by declaring its determination to avenge its dead leader.
America and Israel should be aware that this attack will bring them nothing but shame. Our great nation, who are now mourning this great martyr Khamenei, must foil the enemy's evil plans by being present in mosques and on the streets.
And this is what Iran's rage looks like. The town of Beit Shemesh, just a short drive from Jerusalem, was hit by a missile. The explosion flattened a school, a synagogue, homes and a bomb shelter where dozens had sought refuge. At least 9 are confirmed dead. Visiting the scene, one of the most prominent members of the Israeli cabinet.
What do these people ever do to them? What do these babies do to harm them? They've never done anything bad to Iran. We don't even share a border with Iran. It was for no reason at all, except pure hatred for the sake of hatred. So I'm asking all those who defend them in the world, who are you defending? Monsters.
The people we spoke to insisted this is simply a residential community with no targets of any military value. For many Israelis, the first day of this war was all about images of missiles being intercepted and bombing raids on Iran. But this is a very different scene. A school, a synagogue, homes demolished and people killed. This attack makes the war very real for every Israeli.
This is what it is. This is what it looks like. And just for reference, this is one missile that hits and affects so many buildings and so many lives. So think about the amount of missiles that were on the way from Iran towards Israel in the last 2 days. So the damage can be immense.
Iran has continued its attack on Gulf nations. Smoke rising in Sharjah and Dubai. This high-rise building in Bahrain struck by a suspected drone. Iran's plan is to embroil as many nations as possible. In Oman, smoke billowing from a port. Shipping seen as vulnerable here. And that means Iranian attacks on shipping passing the Strait of Hormuz. This whole region has been rendered unpredictable. In Iraq, not typically Iran's friend, a huge rally to honour Khamenei's memory, broken up as it closed in on the American embassy. The Middle East is rippling, changing and fighting before our eyes. A region etched by past conflict is now writing its future again. Adam Parsons, Sky News, Jerusalem.
Well, earlier I spoke to Iran's ambassador to the UK, Saeed Ali Mousavi, and asked him for his reaction to the military action against his country.
We were in the middle of the negotiation. We were in the, we are looking for one diplomatic solution. And so there is no need to go into the military action, military confrontation between us. But unfortunately now, in the middle of the military action, they are killing our people. They are killing our innocent children in the schools. But unfortunately, inside of this, and they are claiming to have a diplomatic solution. There is no doubt that the Iranian government and the Iranian people always reiterates on diplomacy and diplomatic solution, so that that we have this kind of peaceful settlement of mechanism.
Mr. Ambassador, just to be clear, have Iranian leaders reached out to President Trump and asked to talk?
No, regarding for the details of this kind of communication I don't know exactly, but now we are in the war. We are in the middle of the war, and so he's claiming he's said something. You can ask the President Trump in this matter.
Mr. Ambassador, did you and the Iranian government anticipate an attack like this? Because for weeks we were hearing that perhaps they would attack. And what we saw in the end was the Supreme Leader, many senior leaders in very close proximity to each other in their compounds, in their offices, in their homes, yesterday morning when they were attacked. Why was there not more preparation for something like this? And why were all of these senior leaders in very close proximity to each other, in their residential buildings and offices?
You see that regarding to find some solution, regarding for this matter, that the Iranian side always reiterate to find the one, diplomatic solution in this matter. And so we have submitted our proposals. But now we are defending ourselves, because the one act of aggression imposed us. And so there is no doubt that we are doing our rights of our inherent rights of self-defense. Now we are defending ourselves. That's it. But they are coming to attack us in our region and using all of the military troops and facilities against the Iranian people. And so there is no any room to defense. We should defend ourselves. But we do believe that if they are genuine and decisive and determined to find one diplomatic solution, there is no doubt that the Iranian side will come.
You talk about defending yourself. Gulf countries, some of them your partners and allies, are furious because you've launched a series of missile attacks on their states as well as we've seen drones slam into luxury hotels in places like Dubai. Are you going to continue that as well?
You see, first of all, let me reiterate that we have a very friendly and brotherly relations with our neighbors in the Persian Gulf, all of them, with the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, all of them. And so we had a very good relations with them. And before this imposed war, we have declared to the American side and as well as our neighbors that if they want to impose any war and military aggression against Iran, there is no doubt that Iran will consider to have some reaction according to our self-defense right. And so any military bases, any properties, any assets that which are very supporting of the American troops to have some intelligence or military activities against the Iranian people, there is no doubt that there are legitimate targets.
Mr. Ambassador, could you tell us a little bit more about the civilian casualties inside Iran? Because we understand a school was hit as well in the last 24 hours. What is the situation inside the country?
Unfortunately, we have several victims and martyrs inside of Iran and many casualties. To be honest, I have no any exact figure regarding how many people has been martyred and killed. But I do believe in the one example that the Israeli regime and American regime attacked us in the one school in the Minab city. By now, 153 people has been killed over there, and so a lot of people has been injured. And so, in one, civilian place, more than 150 people martyred.
Mr. Ambassador, we've seen footage of people mourning the killing of the supreme leader, but we've also seen many people in Tehran and in the diaspora celebrating his killing as well. There are many people tonight, Iranians, who are happy about that.
You see that you can ask this question from them regarding for this happiness. But I do believe that if you go inside of Iran, you can realize that the many people spontaneously gathered in the different cities, in the different escorts, in different gathering places for mourning of the supreme leader. And so we do believe that according to the majority of the Iranian people believes that the supreme leader has been martyred by American regime and Israeli regime, and they are mourning for their supreme leader. Regarding for the rest of the people that you mentioned, you can ask them.
Mr. Ambassador, just finally, how do you believe this will end?
You see that I do believe, Yalda, that for every international problems, any international issues, there are a lot of peaceful mechanism to be settled. One of them is, making some concerns regarding for the Iranian nuclear program, that although that we have shown our intention and desire that the Iranian side do not have any desire to produce the nuclear bomb, but for the eradication and the removing any misunderstanding, any concern, and any worries about this matter, that the Iranian side was very ready to have this, peaceful settlement. But unfortunately, now in the war, there is no doubt, first of all, that the Iranian people now is defending and will defend for his dignity, for his territorial integrity, and as well as for national sovereignty. But we do believe that wherever that the other side is genuine, is decisive, is intended to have one mutually agreed compromise, there is no doubt that the Iranian side is ready to have to exhaust again the diplomatic solution.
That was Ambassador Mousavi, and we've just put on our personal protection gear because, of course, the sirens have gone off again. We have had Iranian missiles launched here over the skies in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv over the course of the last 36 hours. And I can see the interceptors working at the moment as these missiles are launched. With me now is our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons. And Adam, this has been going on for the last, frankly, 36 hours now. We are expecting them almost every few hours. I was in a bunker a few hours ago, and here we are again. We heard the siren and the alert, which goes off on our phones.
Yeah, so the alert will go off on your phone, tell you to expect this. Now, we clearly have protective equipment. That is to tell people to go and take shelter. Then what happened there is a couple of minutes after that, in this case, the air raid sirens have gone off here. And what you saw were, and at night you can see it in a different way, these orange tracers. Those are interceptor missiles that are going up. And we saw some, even through the darkness, you could see some puffs of smoke. You can see where the Iranian missiles are being intercepted by the Israeli missiles. They actually have three systems. The Iron Dome is one, David Sling, Arrow 3. Because these are Iranian, generally quite high altitude ballistic missiles, it's a lot of people call it the Iron Dome as a sort of all-encompassing generic expression. For missile in view, there are called Arrow 3s that go up and intercept them. It is an extraordinarily efficient system, but it's not foolproof. It can't catch 100% of these missiles, particularly, I was talking to one Israeli official today, on a day like this when the Iranians have sent wave after wave. Part of that is because they know that a small percentage will get through, and as we saw a little earlier in Beit Shemesh, one Iranian missile can cause a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, and what was, quite extraordinary and terrifying about that particular missile was those people were in their bomb shelter.
If you look up there, over there, that's debris coming from an intercepted missile. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but those little clouds of dots we saw, and that's actually, we'll come back to Beijing, but that's a number of occasions already we've seen here, also previously in the 12-day war, that debris is sometimes what causes damage.
Yeah, absolutely. We can hear the sounds of booms. And like I said, the alert goes off on your phone. Most people here would be under their bunker at the moment. But in Beit Shemesh, where you were today, those families were also in their bunkers when they were killed.
Yeah, it's a very, very grim story. That one, the alert went off. Everything worked as it was supposed to do, except for one fundamental thing, which was that the missile was not intercepted. The families had gone into an underground bunker. The missile crashed in destroyed houses, a synagogue, a school, but its actual point of impact appears to be right at either the entrance to the bunker or right on top of it. And it caused the bunker to come in on itself. The question is, why was that missile not intercepted? Now, the Israel Defense Forces have launched an investigation, but I've spoken to a number of people in the IDF, and they have said this system is, in many respects, world-class, one of the best aerial defense systems in the world, perhaps the best, but it is not foolproof. It cannot catch everything. And this was the one that it didn't, and the consequences were pretty horrific. Everyone at that scene said to me, this is not a military target, it's not even a government office, this is just a residential area. It is hard to believe, frankly, that the Iranians would have targeted that. It is quite easy to believe that that missile somehow went off target, because that's what missiles can do, and careered into this bunker.
Adam, thank you so much for joining me here and helping our audiences understand what I guess most of this region is feeling and experiencing at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, let's get more now on those comments from Donald Trump this evening. Let's bring in our US correspondent, David Blevins, who joins me live from Washington, and you can still hear those big booms. David, I'm talking to you now, but we're dealing with some of these missiles that are coming in from Iran at the moment. The interceptors are doing their job, but if I suddenly have to interrupt you, I'll let you know. But just give us a sense. Donald Trump has said this evening that the Iranian regime, the leadership, have reached out to him wanting to start talks.
Yes, well, we haven't seen President Trump since he addressed the nation in the early hours of yesterday morning. That in itself is unusual. He may appear on camera later today when he makes the journey back from Florida to Washington. But we have heard from him because he has been taking calls from various US outlets. He tends to do that sometimes. And in a conversation with a reporter from The Atlantic, he claimed the new regime in Iran had reached out to him. He said he was willing to talk with them. In fact, he said they should have talked earlier, but had been, in his words, too cute. Now, that begs a couple of questions. If the new regime really wants to talk to him, given that the war began while negotiations were taking place, you've got to ask, why would the Iranians want to talk now? Well, in answer to your question about that with the UK ambassador a short time ago, he said it's because they want to exhaust every diplomatic solution. And then, bearing in mind that the new regime is basically the old regime, there's been no ideological change, you've got to ask, why would President Trump want to talk to them now? Unless, of course, he's already looking for an off-ramp. Since he made those comments to The Atlantic, by the way, the White House has clarified that he is willing to talk to the new regime eventually, they say, but Operation Epic Fury continues, in their words, unabated for now.
David, thank you so much for that update. Now, the death of the Ayatollah has prompted scenes of both jubilation and grief in Iran as people there come to terms with a seismic moment in their country's history. However, they greeted the supreme leader's killing. For all Iranians, there are huge questions over the regime and the country's future. Here's our international correspondent, John Sparks.
No one's made a formal declaration of war, but it looks and sounds like war in central Tehran. Clouds of smoke, the crack of high explosives, as the Americans and the Israelis bring their operation to the heart of the capital city. And if the elimination of senior Iranian leaders was their chief objective, it seems they've achieved their goal.
Allahu Akbar.
The death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was acknowledged on state television at 4 a.m. Here, the presenter recites a prayer for the dead, but he's barely able to finish it.
Inna lillah.
Yet the demise of the Supreme Leader was met with pockets of exuberance and joy throughout the country. Congratulations on our freedom, cries one. Am I dreaming? Hello to the new world, shouts another in southern Iran, where they knock down a monument to Ayatollah Khamenei, the founder of the Islamic Republic. Some cheered from their balconies, for the Supreme Leader ruled with an iron fist. A man ready to repress and kill his own people. But in this deeply polarized society, he was also a revered religious figure, a man invested with the authority of the divine. In Tehran's Revolution Square, his supporters spoke of their anger and deep shock.
We were saying to ourselves all night that his death must be a lie. Unfortunately, it was the truth.
We lost our dearest person. We lost our elder. We lost our master. That's why we've gathered here.
President Trump says he's given Iranians the opportunity to take back their country. But a significant number here back the existing regime, which the US-led coalition is now trying to destroy. These are the remains of police headquarters. This is the office where political dissidents have been sentenced to death. And here we see the implosion of the detention facility used by the paramilitary police. Yet a new leadership council has been appointed, and this man, Ali Larijani, will play an instrumental role. He's a top national security official. We Iranians have faced worse than this, said Larijani, but his defiance will make him a target. The regime looks vulnerable. The Americans and the Israelis are operating with total air superiority. But the clerics remain, and they control the streets. John Sparks, Sky News.
Well, Donald Trump claims 48 of Iran's senior leaders and commanders have been killed this weekend. So who is in charge now? Well, let's just take a look at some of the key figures in the country and who might replace the Ayatollah. Ali Khamenei was Iran's supreme leader and its most powerful figure since 1989. Masoud Pezeshkian is the president, and Ali Larijani was a senior advisor to Khamenei. In the military, prominent figures included the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, General Mohammad Pakpour, Defense Minister General Aziz Nasirzadeh, and the Army's Chief of Staff, Abdul Rahim Mousavi. 4 of those 6 who were killed in the strikes on Iran yesterday. The Supreme Leader, the head of the Revolutionary Guard, the Defense Minister, and the Army Chief of Staff. With the death of the Ayatollah, a leadership council will temporarily run the country. It's made up of senior cleric Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi, who's the head of Iran's Islamic seminaries, the hardline Chief Justice Ayatollah Ghulam Hossein Mohseni Ajayi, and the reformist president, Masoud Pezeshkian. The council will remain in place until a new supreme leader is chosen. Potential successors to the top job include Ayatollahs Arafi and Mohsen Ajayi, and Khamenei's second eldest son, Moshtaba, who's a mid-ranking cleric and is believed to wield considerable influence behind the scenes. Well, let's go to our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, who joins me now. And Dom, you know, the big question now is about the day after and whether there really is a strategy here.
Yeah, and I think that's a question being asked by allies around the region who are seeing the region sink into more and more violent chaos. The Turks must be saying to the Americans, what is the plan? Do you have a strategy? Do you understand how this region works and how Iran could go from here? And certainly the Gulf states will be asking the same thing. In terms of a strategy so far, all we've heard from Donald Trump really is what we heard on the first night, which was he urged the Iranian people to rise up to seize a once in many generations chance of taking back control of their country. And he urged those with guns to hand them in, to surrender their weapons, enjoy an amnesty, or to face certain death. And what's happened actually since he said that on Truth Social is the opposite. Those who have come out to celebrate have risked being shot. They have not handed their guns at all. The security forces, some of them have gone out and have shot more Iranians on the streets of various cities around the country. Now, I think in the absence of a publicly stated strategy, what we're hearing instead is unnamed sources in the administration saying that there is a plan. It's cleverer than the president made clear on that first night. The plan that's emerging, certainly what is being claimed at least, is not so much to topple the regime, but to kind of split it. So to encourage those more moderate, more pragmatic elements, possibly in the Artesh, which is the more conventional Iranian army. Not the IRGC, which is the revolutionary military force, but those in the Artesh to try and seize control, to stabilise the country, and then to negotiate more pragmatically with the outside world, with the Americans and the Israelis. Now, on the face of it, that looks like a recipe for civil war. You could see the conventional army taking on the IRGC, and you could see some kind of conflict. Now, there's no sign that that's happening yet, but there may be efforts, and what we don't know, Yalda, really is what is happening behind the scenes. You know, what are the Israelis doing? Have massively penetrated Iran with their intelligence assets? Are they trying to co-opt members of the various levels of the security forces, try and persuade some of them to come over and say, you could escape death. And what they are seeing, these leaders in the regime, is one leader after another being targeted and assassinated and killed in these very effective Israeli-American strikes. So there might be an incentive for members of the government to come over to a more pragmatic wing and then to try and sort of negotiate with the outside world. I think it's impossible to say exactly what is going, but that certainly is how the administration or unnamed sources in the administration are presenting their strategy. I mean, I think it has to be said without a clear strategy, Iran is looking at a very uncertain future. And what we're certainly going to see is, it seems, days more bombardment by the Americans and the Israelis as they try to persuade the Iranians to deal with them on America and Israel's terms. And we've heard from both Donald Trump and elements of the Iranians, the ambassador as well, talking to you in this programme earlier, talking about the possibility of diplomacy. So while the bombardment goes on, there is the possibility, at least, of both sides talking to each other, while it seems the Americans and the Israelis are also trying to persuade elements of the regime to switch sides and to come over to their point of view and to hand over Iran, in a sense, to a more pragmatic and more moderate future.
Yeah, Dom, I guess, given the top leadership, including the supreme leader, has been decapitated, we know, as you say, their intelligence has been infiltrated, their military degraded. Having spent time in Tehran the way that you have and spoken to some of the political leaders, would they now be looking for some kind of off-ramp which will allow them to save face as well?
Well, I think on the one hand, Yalda, you've got to say that the whole business model of the Iranian Revolution really has now been proven fundamentally bankrupt. I mean, it was looking that way already, wasn't it? Because the whole compact between the Iranian leadership and their people was that the revolution would keep Iranians safe from the bogeymen, the kind of villains, the great Satan and little Satan, the Americans and the Israelis. And they would do that with a sort of outer ring of proxies that they supported around the region, and then by developing a massive missile program, ballistic missile program, and a kind of ambiguous nuclear program. Now, the Iranian government has spent billions on that over the years, and it is being dismantled. The proxies have been massively degraded by the Israelis over the last couple of years, and the Americans and Israelis are currently degrading the missile program too, and have destroyed much of the nuclear program. So that kind of pitch is obviously completely now unfounded, and the regime has now lost its leader as well. So I think long-term, the Iranian revolution has lost all legitimacy and credibility. But I think the problem is within the leadership, you still have zealots, you still have people who believe that massive sacrifices were made during the revolution and during the war with Iraq, and nothing can be done to make those sacrifices in vain. And I think it will be a brave Iranian leader to step forward and say, that's the past, this is the future, we've got to be more pragmatic and cooperative with the outside world, because what we've offered the people so far, which they've rejected in their tens of thousands coming out onto the streets, has been a forlorn promise. So you can see where the country may be heading. It's just very hard, I think, to see how you get there and who might emerge to lead Iran to that very different future.
Dom, as always, thank you so much. And just in the last few minutes, the US Central Command has said that the US military's Central Command is saying that over 1,000 Iranian targets have been struck in ongoing operations. And President Trump earlier also said that at least 48 senior Iranian regime officials have been targeted. He also talked about their naval ships being targeted as well. Now, Reza Pahlavi is the eldest son of the last Shah, and he wants to be a central figure in building a new democratic Iran. Let's speak to his chief of staff now, Kamran Khansarinia. Thank you so much, Mr. Khansarinia, for joining us here on the programme. I just want to begin by asking you whether there has been any contact between Reza Pahlavi and President Trump or members of his administration over the course of the last 36 hours.
Yalda, it's very good to be with you. And first of all, I hope you stay safe in your coverage of this ongoing conflict. The Prince has engaged in ongoing diplomatic conversations over the past several days and over the past several weeks since he called people to the streets on the 8th and 9th of January, and they responded to his call in the millions. And unfortunately, 40,000 brave Iranians died in the fight for freedom. And so in order to ensure that their sacrifice, and now that the support coming from the Americans and the Israelis leads to true, proper, lasting change in the form of stability, democracy, and peace in Iran and the region, the Prince continues to engage with diplomatic partners, chief among them the United States, but also regional partners and others in Europe to ensure that this transition leads to a proper outcome.
I ask this, sir, because, of course, in the last few weeks, we've heard senior members of Congress, senior members of the Trump administration talk about the fact that, you know, it's not really down to them to propel Reza Pahlavi into that position. Lindsey Graham said at Munich that, you know, it wasn't down to him to decide. And no, he didn't really, you know, want to name Reza Pahlavi as a alternative. So that's why I ask about contact and whether in this critical moment you and the Crown Prince still see him as a viable option for the Iranian people, given some of those statements we've heard from the administration and those close to President Trump.
Well, he's not the only viable option. He's, in fact, the only option that can lead Iran to true peace, to true prosperity that it once had, that the relations that Iran once had with its neighbors, be they the Arab nations of the Persian Gulf, be it Israel, be it the United States or Europe. So he's the one with the vision and with the popular support. And in fact, when President Trump, when the U.S. administration, when good friends of ours like Senator Graham say that it's not up to the United States Senate or any particular government or any non-Iranian really to determine the future leadership of Iran, and that is the Iranian people's decision to make, they're exactly right. The Prince values first and foremost the support that he has in the millions across every one of Iran's 31 provinces, across the diverse ethnic, religious, linguistic demographies of Iran, across the political spectrum, from Republicans to monarchists, left-wing, right-wing. That's what matters. At the end of the day, the Iranian people will choose their future leader, and the only one with the capacity to bring a nation of 90 million people together is the Prince, because choosing among or trying to prop up among the remnants of this regime, people who have been part of this 47-year disaster, not only for Iran, but for the region and the world, will not lead to stability. It will lead only to more chaos, first and foremost, because the people of Iran won't accept that person. So those who are trying to make attempts for power from within the regime, their only solution, their only way really to be a part of a future Iran is to submit to the will of the Iranian people, which has made it very clear that they do not want this regime. They chanted death to the dictator, death to Khamenei. He's now dead. But they also chanted death to the Islamic Republic, and soon the Islamic Republic in its entirety will be dead. And only when the regime in its entirety is gone can Iran reclaim its national identity, return to its rightful place among the nations of the world, and be an actor for peace and for stability. And that's exactly the vision the Prince brings as a transitional leader to bring Iran to democracy.
What we're going to see, what we've seen, Mr. Khansarini, over the course of the last 36 hours, though, is civilian casualties are going up because of these airstrikes. A school was hit in Manjib, where it's believed over 100 elementary school girls were killed. There is no doubt that if this campaign continues, 1,200, bombs were dropped across Iran. There is going to be a huge civilian death toll if this campaign continues. Is that something that you and the Crown Prince will continue to support?
Well, first of all, let's be very clear that the Islamic Republic will undoubtedly be putting out copious amounts of fake news and disinformation in the coming days, as it already has. This morning, it posted images claiming that tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands were rallying for a funeral or mourning ceremony for Ali Khamenei. It was footage from 5 years ago. The 40,000 corpses that they have from the people that they slaughtered mere weeks ago are likely to be used.
Extensively, but I just want to focus on, there is no doubt that when we see the kind of airstrikes that are taking place in that country over the course of the last 36 hours, that there is going to be civilian casualties. So I've covered extensively the protests that took place, and we spoke to many demonstrators and their families. But I just want to focus on this moment, the last 36 hours, and the fact that civilian casualties will be high if we see the continued airstrikes that we are seeing, especially in places like Tehran, especially in densely populated areas.
Well, the Prince, in his first message upon the beginning of this air campaign against the Islamic Republic, called on and asked the American leadership and the Israeli leadership to do their utmost to focus on military targets, to help protect the people of Iran, because the Islamic Republic is doing nothing to do so. Of course, in such campaigns, civilian casualties are always possible, but it's important to remember that the people of Iran themselves have been the ones who have been asking for, nearly begging for, this military intervention to level the suppressive apparatus of the Islamic Republic, to hit the IRGC, the repressive machine that has been slaughtering Iranians. That is the target of this intervention. Really, it's a humanitarian intervention to stop the killing of innocent civilians, those 40,000 that we talked about and that you covered throughout the month of January. So that's the target of this intervention. The people of Iran have asked for it. And when the repressive apparatus of this regime is decimated, then the people of Iran will have a fighting chance and be able to take control of the country to reclaim their nation.
I've just got a minute left, but I just want to ask you, we often see through these air campaigns, you don't see the kind of regime change that we're hearing from the Trump administration or, frankly, the leaders here in Israel. Do you believe that there is a day after plan?
Well, it's up to us. It's up to the Prince. It's up to the team that we're putting together to have that day after plan and bring it to our diplomatic partners. Of course, they have interests. Of course, they have things that they'd like to see. But that's why we've spent the past several years putting together the Iran Prosperity Project. My colleagues who run that project have consulted with and now work with over 100 experts in a variety of fields prepared to manage the transition to ensure the stability of the country's affairs in the first 100 to 180 days after the collapse of the regime. That's our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of any foreign government to do it for Iran. And that's exactly the work that the Prince has been doing, that his team has been doing. And in the coming days, you'll see many more announcements about just that and the plan to ensure a stable transition to democracy and manage the country's affairs after the collapse of this regime.
Mr. Kamran Khansarinia, thank you very much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you.
Well, at least 3 people have been killed in Iranian retaliatory strikes launched against the United Arab Emirates, with holidaymakers and expats dragged into a widening regional conflict. Airlines flying in and out of some of the world's biggest hubs remain grounded, and governments now face the prospect of getting hundreds of thousands of their citizens home safely. Here's Sky's Sally Lockwood.
Oh my God, it's bomb debris. Here. Oh my God, it's a bomb.
Oh my God! This regional war has become personal. Iran's attacks reaching the homes of some of Dubai's residents.
No joking, guys. We have just been hit by a drone. We heard it coming. It stinks of oil in here. I didn't even finish my cup of tea.
Embassy and government advice to shelter in place for most means to stay at home. But that wasn't a safe option for some people today. The UAE has reported at least 3 deaths so far in these strikes, and dozens more have been injured. This sense of terror has driven some families to hit the road to Oman in search of safety. One family, a mother, grandmother and newborn baby, staying at the Fairmont on Dubai's Palm when it was hit, chose to drive through the night to the Omani border.
We had been in the lower ground floor of our hotel for many hours, trying to decide what to do. And, you know, people were bringing in mattresses from the sunbeds to sleep in the corridors and trying to stay away from any glass. And I just decided that actually I thought the best idea was to try and get a car and get to my husband in Oman. It feels a bit surreal, to be honest, because I never really expected that to happen in Dubai. I feel very relieved that we are here. I think, you know, I'm glad that we did make the decision to leave.
But that sense Oman would be immune to these attacks was short-lived. Drones striking the port of Duqm in Oman. The move has shocked many in the region. Oman, widely seen as protected due to its role as key mediator between Washington and Tehran. Major infrastructure has been hit for a second day in the UAE. A large cloud of smoke rising from Zayed Port in Abu Dhabi after a strike on its airport overnight. There's a lot of anxiety among residents.
I've been here just over 2 years. I am starting to feel like, what does my future look like here? It's very uncertain right now for me.
Milton, a US Army veteran, is in touch with his former colleagues in Abu Dhabi.
Some people got evacuated, and some people are looking forward to going home. How we feel is not really the objective. Completing the mission is the objective, and regardless, we got to stand behind our commander-in-chief, regardless of what happens. So it is what it is.
A large US naval presence deployed to Jebel Ali port in Dubai was hit in another strike overnight.
This has been another unnerving day for the UAE, another unnerving day for the region. There's a big difference between targeting American military assets and hitting national infrastructure and terrorizing civilians. The UAE says Tehran has crossed a red line and it's currently reviewing its options in terms of how it will respond.
The UAE prides itself in its reputation of being a safe place to live and to holiday. Images of tourists sleeping in underground car parks could not be further than the image it seeks to project. Mia and Dara are desperate to get home.
Boiling hot down there, people were smoking cigarettes, car engines were on. I went for a little walk around just to see what was going on, and there was a room that I went into as well, and it was an air-conditioned room, and there was even more people than there were outside in the car park in this tiny room, babies, kids, parents. It was just, I was like, this feels like it's out of a movie. It just did not feel real.
We actually were on a boat when the Fairmont was hit, so we could see the missiles kind of flying above the boat. But yeah, I do think I'm going to go home as soon as possible.
Air travel remains suspended until at least Monday afternoon. Businesses and schools are ordering workers and pupils to stay at home for the coming days. Sally Lockwood, Sky News in Dubai.
And Sally joins me now. Sally, I'm just looking at those images coming in from your piece and the people you were talking there. I mean, frankly, it's unbelievable to see Dubai in this way and so many thousands of people trapped, desperate to get home.
Yeah, absolutely, Yalda. It's hard to explain the atmosphere here. There are large residents' WhatsApp groups here. I'm on a number of them, and they are absolutely on fire with people stressed, worried, anxious, really fearful. This is not something that people sign up for when they come to live in Dubai, drawn not just by the sunshine, but also the sense of safety that the UAE prides itself in. And that has really been shattered in the last 2 days. You and I go to strange places all over the world reporting. We're used to reporting from situations like this, but even for me, this feels extremely strange to be at home reporting on a story that is impacting all the people around me, with family here as well. And I think the sense tonight is that things do feel calmer this evening. We haven't had the large number of bangs in the sky and explosions that we've been hearing, that we heard last night, that we were hearing this morning. There is a bit of a lull. That said, there are alerts now in place that have just come in Sharjah, the Northern Emirate of Sharjah, and also in Abu Dhabi. And I spoke to a source in Abu Dhabi a little earlier who said, you know, that they are hearing things and that this could be another busy night. I think For residents here, they are hoping that there will be some sort of normality that will resume pretty soon. It's kind of hard to imagine that normality won't resume here. But I think the fear is that this could be the case for a while in this region, that it could become slightly unstable, very unpredictable, and certainly it's very concerning. Now, the Foreign Office sent out a notice to British nationals who are in the Middle East at the moment, saying register your presence, and that was shared around the UAE today. 76,000 British nationals are said to have registered themselves in this region, and 3/4 of those citizens are said to be here in the UAE, most of them tourists here on holiday. And there is a lot of concern from tourists that I've spoken to today that they just don't know when they're going to get home. They want to get home. Travel remains suspended until at least 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But there isn't a huge amount of optimism at the moment that things are going to return to any sort of normality anytime soon. We're just going to have to wait and see how tonight goes.
Indeed. Sally, thanks so much. Well, ships in the Strait of Hormuz have been coming under attack today, with at least 3 incidents reported by UK authorities. Oil prices are set to soar as cargo ships and tankers drop anchor or avoid the area altogether, meaning costly diversions. Laura Bundock explains.
The world's waters are incredibly busy, and with tensions growing in the Middle East, Sky's data and forensics team has been monitoring shipping movements in critical areas. Each of these red marks shows an oil or gas tanker. One of the most important shipping routes is here, the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran to the north and Oman and the UAE to the south. It is the only marine outlet for this region's main oil producers, including Iran, making it strategically vital. 20% of global oil was flowing through this narrow waterway in 2024, which is the equivalent of 20 million barrels a day. Now, ship tracking data shows us Hormuz on the 1st of February and shows how active, how busy the strait was, vessels passing into and out of the waterway. But this is the situation the day after the US and Israel carried out their first strikes on Iran. Far fewer vessels in the area and very little movement, with clusters piling up next to large ports either side of the strait. Now, the data can also track individual tankers. We've focused on 5 vessels in the area, all due to cross through the strait. Each one, though, changing course and turning around. Between them, analytics agency Kepler estimates they have the capacity to carry around 10 million barrels of oil. Now, Iran can't legally close the strait, and there isn't a physical blockade, but the risks here are huge. On Sunday morning, there was an attack here on a Palau-flagged oil tanker called Skylight. Some on board were injured and the whole crew evacuated. The US Navy is warning against navigation through the strait, and some traders are suspending transit. But as well as that attack, we can also look at this disruption with AIS signals in the strait. AIS is the communication and tracking system used by ships. It is absolutely crucial to safe navigation. This shows the AIS signals in Hormuz on the 27th of February. But look what happens a day later. There is a huge amount of interference. This makes tracking ships difficult and their transit dangerous. Now, volatility in the Gulf will have an impact across the world. Disruption there will in turn disrupt global markets and international trade.
It's Laura Bundock reporting there. Well, let's bring in our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who's here with me live now. And Adam, we've really gotten a sense today of what's been going on, in the sense that you were at the site where 9 people were killed hiding in a bunker. We were out here as sirens were going off. And of course, we're hearing from US Central Command that they've hit at least 1,000 sites in Tehran today. I mean, there doesn't feel like there is an end in sight at the moment. We're only day 2 of this.
Yeah, it is this extraordinary number of events that are going on. We haven't even mentioned the US saying that they've destroyed 9 Iranian naval ships. I mean, who saw that one coming? So these things are flying into us exactly. You've experienced the volatility of this. I had said earlier it felt like there was a lull. It's never at the moment a complete lull, and suddenly you see Iranian missiles flying in overhead with a certain knowledge that the interceptors get almost all of them, but not all of them, as we saw earlier today. And of course, that's what we're seeing here in Israel. We don't have presence on the ground in Iran, but clearly huge number of people are being killed there as well. And we were hearing from Sally that the impact on the Gulf nations as well. I think a lot of the pressure that the US and Israel will be putting on is to try to stop this expanding into a regional conflict. The United States knows that, of course, that Iran will attack things because they are allied to the US. They will want to try to stop that, but it's hard to do that because also for the Iranian regime, this feels existential. They have lost their supreme leader. There are so many questions about where they go, who will take charge, what is going to happen to Iran. Will the people rise up? Will they not? The future is so uncertain for those who remain at the top, and the president himself, they want to seize control, and they feel, and certainly the Ayatollah felt this as well, that the way to do this in this position is to launch a huge reprisal attack in various places. That has been predicted for a while, Yalda, and now we are seeing it come to pass. And those chaotic eventualities that come out of that, well, they are impossible to predict. And that is what is being played out here.
Certainly is. And like you say, this feels like very much the beginning. And frankly, the face of this entire region could change forever. Adam, thank you so much. And of course, Adam and I will be here throughout the week watching these developments. As we've been reporting, the Supreme Leader is dead. Much of the top leadership has been decapitated. Iran has promised to seek revenge. How that shapes itself, what that looks like over the coming days, and how the United States actually responds, as well as Israel, we'll have to wait and see. Donald Trump has said today that the Iranian leaders have reached out to him and want to talk. He's willing to do that. We'll have all the coverage here with all of our correspondents across the region in Washington and London as well. But for now, good night.